Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Spritz.
This podcast is from a fan's perspective of the hit movie and musical Hairspray.
I'm Derek.
And I'm Mitch.
And this is
Behind the Spritz.
Hello, and welcome to the first official episode of Behind the Spritz.
In today's episode, we will discuss the childhood of Hairspray creator John Waters.
Of course, we couldn't do a Hairspray podcast without giving you a little bit of insight on who John Waters is and what came before Hairspray, because there's a decent amount that came before. So, shall we begin?
Indeed we shall.
Okay. On April 22nd, 1946, John was born in Baltimore, Maryland. Shocker. And he was raised in nearby Lutherville. Around 1952, estimating, around the time he was 6 years old, is where he grew an affinity for taking toy cars and smashing them.
So he would set up toy cars and would act like he was gonna set them up for a race, and then be down, and for them to crash into he's on you're on the racetrack, you see the cars driving, and then the car flips around and crashes, and we're seeing this
causing all sorts of mayhem. Just imagining the devastation. He was obsessed with car accidents and junkyards, and he was absolutely obsessed. Now his mother, of course, was very concerned with this behavior, and she went to the doctor, the family doctor, and discussed it. And the doctor was like, what's the big deal, basically?
So the doctor was saying to his mom, he's basically being a kid.
He's a kid. He's a kid. Let him have his imagination. He's not harming anybody.
Imagination plays a big part in a kid's mind. I know when I was little, I used my imagination all the time.
Me too. Yeah.
To go along with what he said, how he was obsessed with cars. Mm-hmm. I liked blocks a lot. Mm-hmm. And my favorite blocks to play with, they were the ones that were made out of cardboard, and they had and it was painted like they were little bricks added up, and they were basically the size of a rectangle, and some were square. And what I love to do with those blocks, I would take them and build the tallest tower I possibly could.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, in a little kid's mind, the best part about building a tower is knocking it down.
Yeah.
I would either use my fist like this.
Yep.
Or I would kick my foot or use a bat.
Sure, you would pretend you're a giant.
Yeah, yeah. Imagination plays a part in not just kids' lives, adults too. I mean, I've carried my imagination with me to this day, and will forever.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was great that his doctor wasn't concerned by this. This is a normal thing for a child. It maybe plants the seeds of John being more interested in more extreme things than,
being interested in other things kids his age would not be.
Yeah, but like you said, all kids sort of destruction a little bit, and
Of course, there were times where I played with two cars at a time. So I would be holding one in this hand, another one another on the floor, and sometimes I would wheel them together and go
oh sure, and mash them together. Yeah, I mean that's all. Yeah, perfectly. But maybe it being the early 50s, maybe it was and this was John's mother's first child, and maybe she, it's it maybe was a little shocking.
And of course, all first time parents are like that. Of course, you're thinking what are they going to do? How are they going to feel about this? What will they like? What will they don't? What will they not like? Will people like them?
Yes. Yeah. And so she did end up allowing this to happen. And she even took him to junkyards to go look at real cars that had been in real accidents. And John was fascinated by this.
And they always say this: what's one man's junk is another man's treasure.
Exactly.
So I bet every time John Waters went to the junkyard, it wasn't like, oh, this is all crap to use. every time he went there, it was like he was on a treasure hunt and would look for, okay, like, I want this, I want that. Oh, that will be good.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. About a year later, a movie called Lily, starring Leslie Caron, was released. And according to John's mom, this really impacted John in a way, or influenced him.
So would you say that started the cell in his brain, like, maybe there's something here?
Yes, for maybe some sort of career in show business, and started an interest in puppets, at least according to his mom.
When you say that, I don't think a lot of people know that about John Waters with puppets. Like,
No,
I didn't even know that until recently, and I've been a fan of John Waters ever since Hairspray came out. And like, I knew he was a director and directed and written all those movies, and getting into that later on, that those movies were beyond the extraordinary. Of course, we'll talk about that later on, but I didn't know he was into puppets until a few years ago.
How
long did it take for you to find out he was into puppets?
Similar to you, I got into John's work after I saw Hairspray, first the original film, and then it on Broadway, and then that's when I started to kind of look into his career. There's a documentary called Divine Trash that is excellent. His friend Steve Yeager directed it, and they discussed that a little bit in there. And I think that's probably where I learned it. But yeah, he had a really successful puppet career as I believe he was about 12 years old.
12 years old, that's impressive.
Yeah, making a decent amount of money for the late 50s. I think he said he was making as much as $50 a week, which is
back in the 50s
for a 12-year-old. Yeah, for a 12. I mean, like,
yeah, well, especially back in the 50s too.
Absolutely. I made like allowance, like, for my parents, like for doing some yard work or
I had with taking out the trash, vacuuming the floor, dusting my bedroom.
But like, the late 90s, early 2000s, when I was doing that, I wasn't making $50 a week doing that.
No. So no, I wasn't either. Well, for me, it would be the 2000s and 2010s.
Yeah.
Sure. But I wasn't making $50 either.
So I can't imagine, in like 1958-ish, making $50 a week. That's pretty good, especially
definitely
for a 12-year-old. But they were pretty successful for a while. But he would, of course, being John Waters, he would do Stranger Things with the puppets. He would do like a traditional puppet show where he would be like behind the table and doing, the puppet show without him in view. And then he would emerge with the puppets, and he would go out and he would like have the kids put out their hands, and he would bite their hands with the puppet.
That does not surprise me.
No, it's very John Waters.
Did the kids like that, or were they like at that?
I think it was a little bit of a mixture. I think there were some kids that were kind of thrilled by this, and John, of course, would say that those kids were the more exciting, cool kids.
Oh yeah.
And then the other kids would be terrified.
I know. There would be a time where I would like put my hand out with the puppets. But say like if I went to a show back when I was like 6 or 7, if the puppet went like this to my hand, I would immediately be like, crap.
I probably would have too. Yeah.
Now at my age, back when I was in high school, if I did it, then I would find it funny.
Oh sure, yeah.
I'd be like this. I'm a cool kid now, John.
Exactly. Yeah, you could bite my hand. Yeah, as a little kid, I probably would have been freaked out too, unfortunately. So before that, though,
that's how I felt when I saw the revival of Cats on Broadway.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't know a whole lot about it going in. Like I knew that Cats was a show, but I knew nothing about it. But because I never saw it before, so I didn't know what to expect. So I didn't know during the overture they were running up and down the aisles, and I had an end seat in the balcony.
Okay.
And one of the cats stared right in my face.
Oh, wow.
And they're not smiling at you.
No.
It's more like this.
Uh-huh.
And when they were doing that, and when it was happening right in my face, of course, I had no idea that was going to happen. So when it happened, like right away, I was like, "Oh, jeez."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be quite a fun show."
Yeah, right
Yeah,
at the
so
beginning.
like I would say that's basically how it was when John was doing the puppets.
I could probably, yeah. So yeah, there's a similarity there for sure. Yeah, but before this though, before really kind of started his puppet career, there were a couple things that happened. Lily was a big influence, but also John, when he was about 8 years old, he went to Sunday school. He grew up,
Yeah, I did
was
know
raised
he
Catholic.
grew up Catholic.
And so in Sunday school, the nuns would read off this list of condemned movies,
So like,
that
and that meant movies that you should not watch at all.
exactly, and there were,
Oh,
this was called.
I bet John liked hearing that. He probably
Ye-
thought, yeah, meaning because like when we grew up hearing like these movies you shouldn't watch, like
Mhm.
me and my friends were like that, and I'm sure he thought this too. Oh, that means they're good.
Exactly. Yes, yes, and so.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see John Waters acting like that. Oh, that means it's good.
Yep, there was a thing called the Catholic Legion of Decency, and they would make the kids take a pledge that they would never see these movies. Now, of course, like you said, John took this as, okay, these are movies I definitely need to see.
Yeah.
And so they were movies.
Did he actually take the pledge in front of the nuns?
I'm not sure if he actually did take it. He says that he refused to take it, which I wouldn't be surprised. Uh, but he looked up these films. Now, some of these movies I do have the titles for, like Love Is My Profession, Mom and Dad, and The Naked Knight, and they were listed in the Catholic Review. Now, also the same year, about approximately, John's uncle got him tickets to be a member of the Peanut Gallery on the Howdy Doody show.
Yeah, that was a big show in the 40s, 50s. My grandmother grew up watching,
of course,
Howdy Doody, and because like she told me like how we've talked about when we were little, how characters obsession we were, how mine was Barney growing up. She told me like Howdy Doody was basically her Barney. Now, of course, like when she was growing up, like she couldn't watch it like on a regular basis, like how I would, because the times were different and like not everything was available the same way as it is today. But she watched it when she could, and she really liked it, and like she told me about it, and she even remembers the song. Like one time she went like to me, "It's Howdy Doody time."
Yeah, it's Howdy Doody time.
I've heard about it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Howdy Doody was huge at the time.
That was one of the first shows out for kids.
Yeah, and John,
and that would be before Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did not grow up on Howdy Doody. I mean, obviously I wasn't alive yet, but I remember in like the late 90s, I used to have a Howdy Doody doll. So like, I mean, people still know Howdy Doody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that just shows how
my grandmother's 82 and she still remembers it.
Of course, yeah. I mean, Howdy Doody, yeah, was huge, and so John's parents took him to NBC Studios in New York City from Baltimore. It was in Studio 8A, and he got to become a member of the Peanut Gallery. There were children.
I bet he was excited about that.
That would sit there, yes, and he was mesmerized by this. Now, this is where he credits this being sort of the first experience that he ever saw.
Spotlight moment.
Yes, and in a light bulb moment where he saw how show business worked from a first person perspective of everything is fake. When you're a child watching a television show, you imagine everything is real. All of this is real.
But then like you don't realizing like they're in a studio with, lights and cameras and microphones everywhere.
And they're acting and I'm sure he saw Howdy Doody hanging there lifeless. And he said like Buffalo Bob, he was kind of a gruff, mean guy. But this he always says that this inspired him. It didn't bother him at all. He he kind of loved seeing this.
So as soon as he saw it, he was like, "This is great."
He was enlightened by it.
And
Yeah,
I think he was like, I want to be part of this. So,
yeah,
and he's like, I'm gonna figure out how.
yep. A few years later, 1957, there was a show on WJZ TV called The Buddy Dean Show.
I'm sure every Hairspray fan and like knowing the history of Hairspray knows what the Buddy Dean Show is. Of course,
Yes,
I know it. You know it because it was basically because before that there was a nationwide dance program called American Bandstand hosted by Dick Clark.
yes,
and that was the Buddy Dean Show was Baltimore's version of American Bandstand.
yes.
And I know this. And at a time, the Buddy Dean Show was the most popular local television program in America.
Now, this would have local teenagers dancing to the hit songs of the day. And it would go on the air every afternoon and go on for hours. And children would go home, and John was one of them, became completely obsessed with it, and even said he danced with his refrigerator to the songs. And we would go on to learn later, in Baltimore at the same exact time, future producer of Hairspray on Broadway, Margot Lyon
was obsessed with it. She said because she's from Baltimore too. And
Mm-hmm.
her senior year of high school was 1962.
Yep.
That's the year Hairspray takes place in. And she said she would be obsessed with the show, and like she would have a pillow with her and like would be squeezing against it and pretending she was dancing with a guy she was madly in love with.
Yep. So John would dance with the refrigerator. Margot danced with a pillow.
Ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, and they didn't know each other.
Oh yeah, they didn't know, they were completely strangers, had no idea.
Yep, and so I think they went to neighboring schools. I think that they both grew up in sort of affluent families, but they never crossed paths as children, even though that they were around the same age. So yeah, the Buddy Dean Show was a huge hit with teenagers, and in real life, once a month they would have Negro Day.
Yeah, and on there they called it Special Guest Day.
Yes, and this was hosted by Baltimore DJ Fat Daddy.
Yes, and John Waters, he was obsessed with Fat Daddy.
He loved it, and I think most of the kids preferred that version of the show because
I remembered they said, so it was Pat Moran who was the casting director for the original 1988 Hairspray. Like she said, when it came to like, the segregation process, like when it came to like, only that day, like she said, the kids didn't care. She said, we white kids were listening to black radio stations.
Yep.
And I remember another couple, I believe it was Gene and Linda from the Buddy Dean Show. Gene said this. That was all I listened to.
Yeah.
Like he said music's colorblind.
Yeah, it was more the adults that were against that. The kids were more progressive, and that's how it continues to be to this day. Is it seems like is these future generations
You're absolutely right.
Keep bringing on change, and it's great. But yeah, of course, the kids absolutely were all for integration, but of course, being the late 50s, unfortunately, it was not that way.
And I know, like, we'll definitely get into that and the impacts of history in future episodes.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just want to touch a little bit. But so I do have a couple of things that are just little things I've collected over the years. So like original TV advertisements. So we have and this was like from the old TV guide in the 50s. And
I'll have to get some of those. Those look really cool.
Yeah, they're really cool. And I love like the little logo, like WJZ 13, and then so we have like this one, but it's just little advertisements.
I also heard John Waters sometimes would make up biographies about the people on the show, and he said half of what he wrote wasn't true.
It was fully his imagination. Yeah, he would write these crazy stories. And there was a rumor about one of the dancers on the show who kind of disappeared, and people thought, and this was a rumor, and this is before social media, this is before, like, you know, conspiracy theories like were all over the internet, everything way before the internet. And somehow this story had made its way around Baltimore, that this girl who just suddenly disappeared from the show, that roaches had planted themselves
roaches in her hair because she didn't wash out the hairspray. Yes. And I remember, and this was in one of the extended DVDs for Hairspray, and I was watching it, and John Waters was talking about it. He said it got so widespread that Buddy Dean actually had to go on the air and say it wasn't true.
Yeah. And I believe her name was Pixie. I believe that was her name. Yeah, crazy. It's just crazy. I mean, that's how invested these kids were that in this show. Now, also, John always said that because these were real local kids, they went to the high schools around the area, and they got beat up at these high schools and stuff, though. Like it was an odd dynamic where it was like,
it was kind of like a mixture of kids like being jealous, wishing they were on a TV show.
It could have been, or thinking that these kids think that they're special because they're on a TV show.
They're know-it-alls.
Yeah. And so that was always interesting. Now, John did dance on the show a couple of times with his friend Bonnie Pierce, Mary Vivian Pierce, who later we'll get into their films. And she is actually the only one that was in every single one of his movies and was his best friend at the time. They got in trouble for dancing the Dirty Boogie, which is...
Yeah, that was one dance you were not allowed to on the show, because they said some dances they couldn't do because they were inappropriate, and one was the Dirty Boogie. And I remember in my in the DVD extensions, like they were saying, just the way it sounds, it's how it's done. But then Pat Moran said, "You ask John Waters, he'll do it." And Tracy and Link danced to that in the 1988 film, as well as on Broadway as well.
Yes, in Motormouth Maybell's record shop. It was kind of an obscene dance, especially at that time. Yeah, and that was the one dance, and it was also dubbed, I think, the Bodie Green. It was another name that for it. Speaking of Bonnie Pierce, Mary Vivian Pierce, this was sort of when John started to get into a little bit of trouble with the local authorities. He was about 15. This was 1961.
And to me and to you, I'm sure this comes as no surprise.
No, I'm
sure with other people who've known him through the years, especially in Baltimore, we always know. Yeah, I think John always says the world's full of craziness.
And
we all have a little bit crazy in us.
Oh yeah, and at 15 years old, it's like, it's healthy to rebel a little bit.
Like you have this facade of like, dun dun dun, like I can do this, I can do that, I'll get away with it. Nobody will ever know.
Yeah, exactly. So they were actually written about, and I don't think that their names were ever used, but they were written about in an article at the Baltimore Evening Sun called "Boys Will Be Boys and Girls Will Be Girls." And this was written by John Goodspeed, aka Mr. Peep. They got in trouble for throwing snowballs at an unsuspecting school teacher at a local Towson gas station. And I don't believe that gas station exists anymore. We both have visited Baltimore, and I've been to Towson several times. And I don't think that this gas station exists anymore, but it was located at the corner of York Road and Pennsylvania Avenue in Towson. 1963, his maternal grandmother, she gave him his very first Brownie movie camera, 8mm, for his birthday.
And I think we know where that leads.
And I think we do. Spoiler alert. He made some movies.